LA Rider is brought to you by the Motorcycle Awareness Campaign, a 501c3 nonprofit organization exclusively dedicated to promoting motorcycle awareness and rider safety throughout Louisiana and the nation. Learn more at macorg.com.
Hello, I'm T.W. Robinson, and welcome to LA Rider, Louisiana's #1 motorcycle travel show. There's a lot of great riding, adventure, and history to be found along the Great River Road on either side of the Mississippi between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Oh, and did I mention good food too? Well, you know if I'm riding, there's gonna be food involved. Well, this week, Tammi Arender and I take you to some of our favorite places, riding Old Man River. The Great River Road isn't just one road. It's actually a collection of state and local roads which follow the general course of the Mississippi River through 10 states, from Louisiana to Minnesota. In South Louisiana, especially the area between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, the term applies to about a half-dozen state highways, which generally hug the flood control levees along the eastern and western banks of the river, and actually staying on the road closest to the river can sometimes be tricky since the numbers change often. You may want to bring a map. Because these river roads are some of the area's oldest byways, you'll find a lot of history and interesting scenery along the way. And near the community of Vacherie in St. James Parish is one of the South's most recognized plantation homes, Oak Alley. It doesn't take you long to discover why they call this place Oak Alley. The 800-foot canopy created by the double row of live oaks extends from the Mississippi to the house. As you walk down the canopy or tour the formal gardens, you may be struck by how familiar this place seems. It's probably because more than a dozen movies and TV shows have filmed here, from Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte to Django Unchained. I'm having a mint julep, and no better way to tour Oak Alley Plantation than to be sipping on a mint julep as you make the tour. Very refreshing on a hot summer day. Touring the house and gardens are a must-do, but there's another reason to visit Oak Alley: the food. Oak Alley operates a first-class restaurant on the plantation grounds, and dining at Oak Alley is alone worth the trip here.
All right.
Ooh, what do we have here?
Sampler today.
Oh, yum.
Alligator, spinach and artichoke dip, and Louisiana crawfish cake.
Breakfast and lunch are served daily in the Oak Alley restaurant, and you'll find everything from salads and sandwiches to full-course meals. And the portions are very generous. There were enough shrimp on my po' boy to easily feed 2 people. Oh, that's fabulous. The bread is so soft, and it's just stuffed with shrimp. Delicious. Whether you come to eat, tour, or spend a few days in the rental cabins, you may find you just can't get enough of Oak Alley. Over the years, I've made many rides to this wonderful place, and each time I hop back on the bike and get out on the Great River Road, I find myself already thinking about my next visit. Oak Alley is indeed one of those very special gems you'll find when you choose to ride Louisiana. Well, I can never pass up a shrimp po' boy, and the one at Oak Alley is terrific. But my favorite po' boy is actually on the eastern side of the river at the old roadside haunt they call Hymel's. There's no doubt about it, I love to ride. And over the course of my riding career, I've racked up a lot of miles on two wheels. Now, I don't always need a reason to ride. Just riding is usually reason enough. But promise me good food, and I'm in the saddle and out on the highway. On this particular Saturday, I was headed south on the eastern side of the mighty Mississippi on the Great River Road. Now, there are a lot of good places to eat between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, but I was craving a fried shrimp po' boy with a side of French fries, and I knew just where to find one. Riding the Great River Road is fun, even when there's no particular destination. But if you're a stickler for highway numbers, you might get confused, since it's really a collection of roads. Just keep the levee on your right, and after about 70 miles and a half a dozen highway numbers, you'll find yourself at one of my favorite old-style roadhouses, Hymel's Seafood Restaurant in Convent. Hymel's is famous for crabs, shrimp, oysters, and crawfish too. But their shrimp po' boy is one of my favorites. They are also famous for fishbowl-sized draft beers. But since I never ride and drink, I settled for a mix of sweet and unsweet tea. Cheers. Within just a few moments, my po' boy arrived, fully dressed and loaded with an abundance of lightly battered, deep-fried shrimp. Get a bite of this. I'm going to try this side first. Just as good as I remember. Now, I usually eat half and stash the rest in my saddlebags for dinner, but not today. The hour-and-a-half ride to Hymel's gave me a lot of time to think about that po' boy, and I had worked up quite an appetite. Now, if you're looking for a great ride and some top-notch Louisiana seafood, check out Hymel's just south of the Sunshine Bridge in Convent. I'm pretty sure you won't be disappointed. When it comes to good food, Hymel's never disappoints, and I'll be back. For LA Rider, I'm TW, just riding, and eating too. Stay with us. More great River Road riding coming up after this. Welcome back. Tammi and I have a lot of favorite places along the River Road south of Baton Rouge. One place we visited often is Houmas House. Here's Tammi with a story we did back in 2011.
It's a fabulous Friday as we head out of Baton Rouge on River Road, one of our favorite stretches of two-lane asphalt that always provides a great path for our two wheels. Its familiarity is occasionally broken by a new sight or new smell, just one of the beauties of riding in bayou country. Our destination is the crown jewel of Louisiana's River Road, Houmas House and St. As soon as we drive into the parking lot, I find I have a visitor on my hand, a wasp.
I thought I got stung. Ow, ow, ow. Have you? Cuss! Can you believe that? That's not how I wanted to start my trip to Houmas House.
Let's see your finger.
It's looks little, but it hurt big.
Once I realize we don't have to call 911, we're off to see Houmas House. The picturesque plantation and its luscious gardens make me forget I was ever stunned. This used to be the largest sugar-producing plantation in the entire country in the 1800s.
It totaled 450,000 acres of land, and there was about 300,000 acres of sugarcane.
Through the vision and determination of Kevin Kelly, who fulfilled a lifelong dream by buying the property in the spring of 2003, the mansion now reflects the best parts of each period of its history.
Houmas House was sold by the Houmas Indians to Alexander Latil in 1770, and at that point the French government gave Alexander Latil a grant to build the rear portion of the house, which is called the French House. Later in 1805, the property was sold to Wade Hampton, and in 1811 they started building the big house that everyone's familiar with now, that is Houmas House. It was modified and changed over years. In 1828 the colonnade was added, so they consider the main house built in 1828 because that's the most dominant feature of the house.
Another reason Houmas House is such a sought-after stopping point is the food. With 4 restaurants on the property, it's a food lover's paradise. Chef Jeremy Langlois has created an exquisite menu, whether you want Cajun, gourmet, or American. For lunch, it's the cafe, where Bob, TW, and I decide it's sandwiches and salads, but certainly no ordinary sandwiches and salads.
Diet food. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
How does this woman stay so thin with her big burgers and fries appetite? After lunch, TW and I take a stroll. We find awesome oak trees, which are hundreds of years old. They create a canopy that's captivating and calming all at the same time. And that's exactly what Kevin Kelly wants you to experience.
And most people say that happens. They just walk on the property and they just don't realize anything else is happening in the world. And that's a nice feeling when they understand that.
Since the home's full restoration, this has been the set of many commercials and movies. Cicely Tyson has shot here, as well as Chevy Chase and Betty Davis in 1963, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte.
Coming to Houmas House is an escape, a step back, and a chance to ride the River Road one more time.
Just a little further south from Houmas House is the community of Convent, a place that has a rich history and an interesting name. We'll tell you more after this. Welcome back. There are a lot of beautiful old houses located alongside the Mississippi River, and some spectacular old churches too. One of them is a must-see, St. Michael's Church in Convent. The River Road, or more correctly roads, that run along the east and west side of the Mississippi between Baton Rouge and New Orleans are a great place to ride. They're lightly traveled, in pretty good shape, and provide terrific scenery. 3 things that pretty much make for a perfect motorcycle ride. Because they also hug the meandering river, these roads provide some wonderful twists and turns, as well as changing landscape. There's a lot of history along this roadway too. Long before the chemical plants and refineries came, agriculture was king in this area, especially sugarcane, and riverboats moved people and products up and down the river. You can learn a lot about the rich river road history by visiting the dozens of old homes, buildings, and churches scattered alongside the river. I always like to take time to stop and explore, take a few pictures, and read the signs that accompany many of the old churches and homes. While it makes for good photos, it also provides me with a connection to the past. One of the great things about riding a motorcycle is there's almost always a place to pull over and park. So take the time to stop and look. You won't regret it. There are many interesting places to explore along the east side of the river between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And one of the real gems is just south of the Sunshine Bridge in Convent. The Church of St. Michael the Archangel traces its roots all the way back to 1809, when a group of French priests were sent to the area to establish a church. Construction on the current building began in 1831, and it was completed in 1833. The total cost was just a little over $19,000.
For the Catholic community, it is very significant because it's the oldest church on the east bank of St. James Parish.
Father Frank Uter served St. Michael's for several years. He was so enchanted by the history of this beautiful church that he wrote a book about it. Uter says St. Michael's is historically and spiritually significant for several reasons, but is perhaps most notable for what is found behind the main altar. The Lord's Grotto was added to the church in 1876. It's modeled after the famous Lady of Lourdes Grotto in France. It is one of the first Lourdes grottos in America, but Father Uter says it's unlike any other since it is constructed of bagasse, a byproduct of the sugar industry. The grotto draws pilgrims from all over the world who come to pray and ask the Blessed Mother for healing and favors. Another interesting and unique aspect of this beautiful old church is the pipe organ. The Henry Urban organ was purchased in 1857 and is still used in the services today. It is the oldest church organ in Louisiana.
It was built in New York, and it was shipped to New Orleans, and from New Orleans it was shipped upriver to Convent.
Along with the church, a college and girls' school was also constructed here, and that is how the town became known as Convent.
Everybody was going to the convent. They were dropping girls off at the convent, and so that's how Convent got its name.
Before leaving St. Michael's, you might want to spend some time in the cemetery. Many of the old graves here actually predate the current church building and were moved here after it was built. Some of the headstones are in French, and several notable people are buried here, including a former mayor of New Orleans. What a beautiful treasure hidden right here along the river road. You don't have to be Catholic or even deeply religious to enjoy a visit to St. Michael's. The church is an inviting place for the roadside traveler, and it's full of history and beauty that just about anyone can appreciate. Riding the Great River Road, I'm T.W. Robinson. If you want to enjoy some great riding, good food, and interesting history, do like Mark Twain did and take a trip down the Mississippi. But stay on the pavement, it's a lot drier. I'm T.W. Robinson. We haven't been everywhere, but it's on our list. What's on yours? See you next week on LA Rider.
LA Rider is brought to you by the Motorcycle Awareness Campaign, a 501c3 nonprofit organization exclusively dedicated to promoting motorcycle awareness and rider safety throughout Louisiana and the nation. Learn more at macorg.com.
God bless chrome cowgirls like us.